let's just keep moseying along here. Okay. What a disaster. A disaster. Oh, God help me. Okay. So, anyways, we're back to the question here. Do I need Photoshop? And I think you do, but there's other things out there that, can do the same thing. And that's pretty much Canva. Canva versus Photoshop is a question we all been talking about for a while in the groups. And some people love Canva and some people don't. I think Canva is great for some things. I mean, it's a great program, and we're just going to take a look at this photo site here, this website. Canva has a lot to offer. I mean, you can do a lot of things in Canva, and it's free. The one thing I don't like about Canva though is it's very. I mean, look at it this way: Canva is like the McDonald's of design. Okay, like you love McDonald's, right? It's cheap, it's fast, it's easy, and it's addicting. And before you know it, you're doing everything in Canva, and that's the danger. According to Canva, I mean, they launched it in 2015 to provide graphic designers with another platform, and really, graphic designers do not use Canva. They really don't. Canva is McDonald's. Like I said, it's easy, and you use it when you probably shouldn't. Canva is overused, and it's really too recognizable. For me, I mean, when do you use Canva? You use Canva when you want to make something from scratch, if you're too busy and you want to do something fast. If you don't want to, go and download a bunch of assets and PNG files and stuff, I mean, you can get it all right here. So, I mean, Canva, okay, it's okay if you want to use it sometimes, but Photoshop gives you so many more avenues, so many different ways to create. It's unbelievable. And the new update, guys, if you haven't updated your Photoshop 2022, do it, because some of the new features are pretty cool. I don't know if I'll have time to show you all those things, but I will try to. Hey, April, do I still have that echo? Oh, no, I'm good. I'm perfect. Yeah. Okay. 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 I design overlays and animations for photo booth businesses around the world, and I'm telling you, there's a communication gap between your graphic designer and yourself, because you have to understand the basic things about computers, like what is a PNG, what is a MP4, and all that kind of stuff. So I kind of want to explore that a little bit. So let's just learn some of the basic stuff. So, okay, guys. There's a lot of different types of files. There's all these different types of files, and what do they all mean? I mean, some people don't really understand, and so when they're trying to communicate with their graphic designer, it's difficult sometimes. From my end and from yours. Really, it's like this: an image. You have a file name, and it's followed by this extension here, the JPG. This is telling me this is a JPEG, a picture. A JPEG is a picture. And that's the thing. We have these image files. There's JPEGs and there's PNGs. Pretty simple, right, guys? JPEG and PNG. You need to know those ones. Don't worry about the other ones for now. We'll learn those as we go, but let's get to know what those differences are. A PNG file is special. It's also a picture file like a JPEG, but it has this ability to have a transparency. As you can see here, we have transparency where the pictures go. So in the photo booth business, boom, we're able to pop in a picture because we have transparency. So in a way, what I'm trying to say is, we have a JPEG, which is a picture, and if I move back and forth, this side with a PNG, you see there's a transparency. So that's how it's done. And really, when a designer asks for a logo that is a PNG, they're asking for a logo that has transparency. So when you get a logo like this that has a white box around it, that's a JPEG. And then we kind of do our magic here and we create a logo with transparency. At Photoshop, I'm going to show you how to do just that. Okay, so it's really, really simple how to remove backgrounds from images and to create your own PNG. So that was something that we had to discuss. And it's funny because I made a video the other day, the top 10 things you don't say to your graphic designer, but probably do. It's a good, little watch. So if you have a moment to check that out. And also, a little bit about me here. Check out my website. I offer animations and overlays for all types of photo booths, and just check it out, and hopefully you can support my business and buy a thing or two there. Okay, we're going to check out the live chat. Just you, April. Just me and you, girl. Okay, so we're going to mosey on here. So what we're going to learn today is, basic Photoshop stuff. And really, you have to understand that Photoshop is very complex. It's very busy, and many different ways to use Photoshop. So for your business, if you're a photo booth owner and you want to use Photoshop, you don't need to know all that stuff. And that's why this tutorial is going to help you, because we're going to skip past all the complicated stuff and make it simple as possible for you. Okay, we're going to learn the basic things that will get you to the point where you can make your own overlays and look professional. So we're going to learn shortcut keys, that are really important, that matter to you, and we're going to learn about the tools that we use, and how they, just the ones you need to know, because there's a lot of different tools, right? In the menu panels, we're going to discover how to save and how to export, and some cool filters that will help you out. We're going to do that kind of stuff. Okay. Moving right along. Going through my checklist, checking it twice. Okay. Okay, we're good. So before I get involved into the heavy stuff here, I did a little bit of exploring online and in the groups, and just try to pick out some of the overlays I'm seeing out there. And I just want to show some of them and explain why they're wrong, what's wrong with them, what could be better. If this is one of your overlays, I'm sorry I'm using it as an example. I'm trying to blur out some of the things that are, might identify you. But let's go check that out right now here. All right, here's my first overlay, and of course, this is a common problem. The problem here is really the logo. You can see the logo right here. It has that no transparency, as a box. That is something that really makes you look unprofessional. It does. It's not professional. The design is okay, kind of clip arty, but the logo. Here's another one here that I almost kind of like, but it's just wrong in a sense of the alignment and stuff like that. So we'll talk more about that when we're discovering how to create our own here. Here's another one where it's just clip art on top of a background here with a pool or a water slide or something. I mean, this isn't something that you should be putting out there. I wouldn't put my name on that. Another one where we're just, this. I mean, where do I start? Not just the low quality of the flowers and stuff, but just where the text is. It's squished right to the side here. We don't do that. Okay. I don't think everyone out there should be a graphic designer, but you should learn some of the basic graphic design techniques that are like the rules of you know, graphic design. Here, this is just too busy. You don't capture a theme by putting a whole bunch of clip arts and stuff like that on here. You capture a theme by being inspired by textures and colors. Another one, I mean, someone put sample on here because they're trying to sell this. I mean, but it's clip art. It's elementary and it's very unprofessional. Here's another one where a glow party. Okay, I like it. It's good. But when you have drop shadows and stuff like that where they shouldn't be, it doesn't make it look glowy now. It's like glow parties don't have drop shadows like that. It's, you know, here's another. Okay, I mean, like, we have a nice image here. It's ocean or something, and then, you know, look like it's cut out lighthouse here, placed on the sand dunes or whatever that is. Another one with drop shadows and a stretched out image in the background. I mean, I understand what they're trying to do here, but it's not right. Again, text that's squished right to the bottom. I mean, there's no center here. You know, this one I can't, like, the picture's not even like center, and not just that, but there's no emphasis on the name. It's a very simple font. It's not fun. It's not elegant. It's not professional, and that's someone's wedding. Okay, guys. Another one here where the text is all wrong. I mean, the name, and then you have a date here, and the date is bigger than their name. So, like, the date's more important than them. You know, like that's what I'm trying to kind of show here. And another one where I understand that this logo is red. Okay, so use red, but I mean, red is a very powerful color, and when it comes to colors, we'll talk more about colors, but colors have this reaction on your brain. You know, blue does this, green does that, and we'll talk more about the color psychology, if you may. I mean, this overlay is kind of acceptable, but when you start putting these logos on the corners to fill in white space, it shows you that they don't understand the importance of white space, and we'll talk more about that too. And I mean, guys, you go from this to this. When you see something that is professionally done by a professional graphic designer, you really, really knows the difference. And this is a beautiful overlay. Beautiful, beautiful overlay. All right, a little drink of water and we're back at it. So again, if I hope I didn't offend anybody, but I'm just trying to show you guys what's out there. And you know, when people pay you money to come and do their event, they expect, you know, a certain type of professionalism, and especially if you have something premium like a mirror booth, that's a premium product, and you want to charge a premium price. But if you can't bring a premium product, you can't get that price. You only can charge what you're worth. And if you're overcharging, trying to get, you know, because the mirror is worth what it's worth if you bring the proper designs and you bring, you know, customizations and all that kind of stuff that comes with the mirror. If you don't bring that, then you can't charge premium prices, and you're not worth it, and you won't stand out from your competitors. So let's just kind of get that straight here. Okay, so I'm going to introduce you to Photoshop. Okay, so let's start with that here. So here we have the Photoshop screen. I kind of made it how it would be if you just downloaded it, okay? So the first thing you want to do is you want to make sure this check mark here is checked, okay? This will give you more freedom to, you know, transform objects without having to go into your menus and stuff like that. So I'll show you more, but make sure that's checked. Also go into your edit and go to your preferences in general. In here, I want you to make sure that on your workspace here, no, tools. that you have these checked. Make sure your over scroll is checked, and make sure you have animated or zoom with the wheel on your mouse. Make sure you have that checked. Okay. All these other things you can kind of like fool around with, but this is a good one here too, performance and your history states. History states is like when you can go back, and how many times, like if you make a bunch of things, do a bunch of things, you can go back and undo it. And how far you can undo it depends on here. If you increase that like to like 1,000, you're gonna really slow down your Photoshop. It's gonna be like really slow. Keep it reasonable. 20 is good. Once you have that, push OK. Great. Now, what I love about Photoshop is you can customize your panels, and like this is not what I do here, so it's odd to me. I don't know where anything is. And that's the thing that you want to do, is customize your screen now, your artboard here. And I'm going to just like show you how you can move these panels, okay, and put them where you want, or you can attach them to other places, pull them apart, take ones out, put them back in. So really take the time to kind of like know what's important, what you need. So one thing you do need is your character and your paragraph. You find these in your window panel. These are all your panels. If I check that, it'll be here. If I close it, it's gone. If I come back in here, I can bring it back. Character. Character is your font. Paragraph is paragraph. I mean, if you guys are, you worked with Microsoft Word or Office or anything like that, I mean, we all know what character is and what paragraph does. And that is one panel you definitely want to have on your screen. Layers is the most important one. So I make that really big. All this other stuff I don't deal with. So I'm going to close, right click and close everything up. Like I said, you can bring all these panels back up if you want to. Okay, now I got more room, and you can put them any way you want. I like my layers right there. Okay. Awesome. Now, let's do an introduction here. This is your tools panel right here. When you click on your tools panel that have an arrow on them like that, you can hold down your mouse, your button, or hold down your button, and you can see there's options, okay? So when I hold down my button, I can see that some of these tools have more tools to them. Okay, those are the kind of things you have to know. And then of course in here you have a whole bunch of various types of things you can do. The ones you need to know is this first one here, which is your select tool. You can also access that with your shortcut keys, which is V. But we'll do shortcut keys later. The ones you need to know are pretty important. So let's get to know some of the shortcut keys you need to know right now. Okay, guys. So, awesome. Okay, here we are. Control Z. Control Z. If you're using a Mac, obviously Control will be the command key, so keep that in mind. I'm using a PC here, so I'll be talking PC talk. Control Z, that is really important, because if you do something and oh crap, I gotta do it, undo it, Control Z undoes it. If you have your state set back, you can Control Z, Control C, Control Z to go back several states, and then Control Z is very important. So make sure you understand that. Remember, all these shortcut keys you can access through menus and stuff, but it's just easier to pound it in your keyboard and do it. Control J is how you duplicate things. If you want to duplicate a text, Control J. Control C, Control V are very common. Copy paste. If you guys don't know that, then get to know it. Control C, Control V, copy paste, used in everything. Control X is how you cut something, so it'll remove it. But if you remove it with a Control X, you'll be able to paste it with a Control V. So what happens when you cut something, it pastes it onto a clipboard, and then you're able to use it later. And of course, F is your views. Okay. So when we come back in here, if I type in F, first, let's start with a project. Okay, let's get a project going, then we can kind of go on from there. So what you do is you're going to go with new, and here we go. We're going to create a project here, and we're going to call this overlay. If you don't name it here, you can name it later. It's not a big deal here. All this kind of stuff, don't worry about it. What you have to know though is, what are you making? Are you making an overlay for a photo booth mirror, or for an iPad? Or you have to know what the resolution, the requirements are. Every software has a different size or resolution, whatever, for your overlay. So get to know that. I'm going to make a postcard overlay, which is common. So I'm going to go 1200 by 1800. Okay, and then your resolution is always 300. And I always start with RGB. If there's issues, I'll convert to a CMYK. But RGB and CMYK are different in the sense that one's for print and one's for screens, for web and all that kind of stuff. RGB is, I find it's like really rich. And CMYK, which is more for printing, it doesn't look as nice. Okay. But when you have issues with like pastel colors and maybe some really light golds on top of a white background, sometimes you see overlays that don't pop. They look good on the screen, but they don't look good on print. Well, then maybe you might want to convert into CMYK, but always start with RGB. I do anyways. And then of course, we're going to have a background that's always white. I'm going to say okay, and here we go. We have our overlay. Always have your rulers on, which is Control R. Okay, Control R will bring up these rulers up here. Now I have some type of guides. Now I can click on the ruler on the side. I'm able to bring in these guides now. If you just zoom in, you can. And zooming in is easy now because we changed that in the settings. So you just use your mouse wheel. And now you can really like move guides around and have a center. So you know what's center, and you can bring in more, as many as you want. Just like that. Bring another one over here. And if you don't like where the guy, you can move them around. And if you don't want to see them, you can go up to the view and clear guides, and they're gone. Okay. So I like to put one in the center. And then always keep your text at least like that, away from the edges. So maybe you might want to put some guides here that will guide you from where to keep your text and keep your important information. Okay. That is guides. Okay, so now that we have a project open, I'm going to show you guys what's really important here, and that's this part here. This is your layers panel. Photoshop is a layers program. It uses layers. So what I mean by that is I'm going to go over here to my rectangle tool. I'm going to create a shape. Now I have a shape here. One second. I want to adjust my panels. I'm going to put my character over here. My panels over here. There we go. Okay, when I do that, then it does bring up my properties here where I can change the color of it. Okay. Now on my layers, you see that this is on top and that's on the bottom. And that's not really a layer. I'm going to delete that. I'll make another layer now. And I'll make this one blue. I don't see the black one now because the blue one's on top of it. If I put it underneath, now that's on top. Layers. Just how's it, it's layers, just like how it sounds. Layers on top of layers on top of layers on top of layers. Okay. I'm going to add another circle now. Okay. I'm going to change that to that. So there we go. Now I have another one, a yellow layer. And if I put that up top, then that's on top. If I put that on top, then that's on top. That's how layers work. Pretty easy. Now, I'm not here to kind of show you how to use Photoshop. Well, I'm kind of here to show you how to Photoshop, but I'm more or less going to show you how to make an overlay. And people just want to get right to the point. So really, I have a shape here that's a blue background. I'm going to confine it to its edges here. So now, excuse me. Remember I told you to put that check mark on up here. If I don't have that check mark on, when I click on that layer, I can't edit it without using a command like Control T to transform. Now I can transform it and make it smaller or bigger or whatever. If you have this check mark here, then you're able to, when you click on the layer, it will automatically enter the edit transform thing here, and I'm able to do different things. As you notice, when I'm clicking and dragging the edge of a shape here, it's keeping its ratio. It's not stretching or anything. But if I want to, all I have to do is hold down the Shift key, and then I'm able to kind of have more freedom of how I want to size this. Okay, so now I have a blue background. I might even expand it out. As you notice here, when you leave the artboard, you don't see anything anymore because you're only going to see what is going to be on the artboard here, which is kind of handy because you can have some objects that are somewhat out like that, right? We'll talk more about that too. You also see too when I click on it, where we're able to transform it, these little dots here, and that's how you kind of like round off your corners. See, I'm kind of like round or whatever. So that's another cool thing about the transformation key. Now I'm going to make it so this is a 4x6. You can tell by the ruler here, 4x6. You can also check by going to image and your canvas size. This is what we did when we first created, we made 1200 by 1800, which is in inches, 4x6. Okay, so the picture that goes inside the overlay is 4x6 too. So what I want to do is just kind of make a duplicate of that, just kind of make a shape like that. Now when I click on the corner, I'm able to move it, and it's keeping its shape. Remember, it's keeping its 3:2 ratio rate. And now I have a place where a picture goes. I don't want a black box though. I want it to be transparent. Remember, we want it transparent like a PNG, right? So what we do now is we go to that layer right here. And when you double click on that panel, it brings up something we call the layer styles. Okay, this is where you add drop shadows and like, I don't know, you can see, I'm going to zoom in first so you can see. So now I'm in the layer style panel, and this is where I can add like different kinds of textures and stuff like that. Textures, I can add a stroke, your inner glows. You can change the color overlay, like the color of it. This layer style box that comes up when you double click on a layer in your panel here, use it all the time. So get to know that. If I click on the background, double click, now I have the layer style panel up for the blue background. As you can see, I'll add text, you can see the blues changing right behind me here. Anyways, I'm just assuming that you don't know anything about Photoshop, okay? And some people are like, yeah, move on, let's go. But I'm trying to talk in a way that you never used Photoshop before. Okay, so now we have a black box here, and that's where I want to put my picture. So if I double click and bring up that layer panel, what I'm going to do now is lower on the advanced blending here, lower the opacity, and then on the knockout, I want it to go deep. Boom. Now I have transparency, and this checkered white checkered thing here, that's transparency, okay, when you see that. So now I have a transparency. And when I take that other thing I had, that yellow thing, put it on top, you can see that it's on top of the transparency. And anything that's underneath the transparency will be transparent. Okay, so keep that in mind too when you're adding things, and it's like over top of a photo like that, or you don't want it there, you can put it underneath by just clicking and dragging it down. Okay. Now on your keyboard, Control and the bracket key will move the layers like that too. Instead of having to click and drag it, you can use your keyboard to kind of move it up and down too. So many shortcut keys, but like, I don't want to confuse you. Like I said, the ones I showed you earlier, those are the ones you really need to know now. And then as we do more tutorials, I'll show you more and stuff like that. So anyways, I don't know, I have a shape here, so I might as well use it. And like I said, I'm using my my shift key so I can move it and transform it freely. So I'm going to do that. Why not? Now, like, this is your canvas. You have a paintbrush. You can just paint away, design, be creative as you want, and really just make things happen here, just like that. And that, why I'm doing this right here is maybe that's where I want to put my text. I don't know. Okay. So we're going to click on the side here where the T is. That's your text tool. And I'm going to come in here and plop in that. As you can tell, it is some certain color here. I'm going to go back and select my select tool. And now I can move that around. As you can see on the panel layer here, it's on top. So if I move it over here, it'll be on top. If I move it to the bottom, it's underneath the yellow, back on top. Okay, so now I have text. When you put a text in, it's going to autofill this thing in here. That's what Photoshop does. When I have it highlighted, I can go over here on the character panel, which is used a lot. I can like change the color of your text, and we'll keep it dark for now so we can see what we're doing. Okay, now we have text. When you click on this panel here, that's where you can adjust all your, choose what fonts you want to use. When you do have a font that you like, you can put that little, click on a star there. So when you go to your star, it'll just show your favorites. So it kind of saves your favorites that you use. I don't use that Senzo one. I like that one. And then here, you can change it to bold or black. What you do in the character panel here, all these different things here are pretty important too, in a sense of how you kern and all that stuff. What I mean by kerning is sometimes you have a font that the S, like for example, maybe the S here is too far apart from the P, and you can adjust all that kind of stuff in here too. I'm not going to spend too much time on that because that is a whole nother day. Just to show you what I mean here, you can kind of like move things in and out. But those kind of things we'll learn later, but it is important. You might find that you use a different font that has, it's really nice, you really want to use it, but there's certain characters that don't work, like the S always is too far over to the left, whatever, you want to always move it in. And when you don't do that, that makes you look unprofessional too, is when you're using fonts and don't do the right kerning. Okay, so we'll do more of that another day. Okay, let's move on. We have an overlay and we got some text. No, excuse me. Okay, so now you can duplicate that now. So Control J, remember? We'll duplicate it. So now I got another one here. I'm going to delete it. I want to show you another thing. You can also duplicate a layer by holding down the Alt key. And then you get that double arrow. And then you can just click and drag and it copies it like that. That's another trick too. Use it all the time. Now if I double click on that layer, I can use that same font and everything. And let's put in a date 10, 10, 20, 22. Okay. There's a date. And this will say, double click on it. You can double click here or you can double click on the box here. Okay, it does the same thing. When it's highlighted, I can go ahead. So I'm going to go Jessica. And then we'll use that and go Jason. There we go. So Jessica and Jason's wedding. Okay. Now, when I click on it, I'm able to like adjust the size of it. I'm holding down the Alt key to keep it centered too, so you can see that I'm doing that. One thing you don't want to do is stretch text, like move it in and out. Okay, let's say I do that. Control Z will undo. Control Z, I love it. You will too. Okay, so now we have a name and we have a font. Now, what you do with typography is another day too. Okay, I'm not here to teach you about typography today. But you definitely want to make sure that the name is bigger than the date because the name means more. We call that hypocrisy or whatever it's called. But anyways, yeah, there we go. And then you see here, I have this line, this grid here. And when I'm moving it, it snaps it, you know. Also, when I have that highlighted, I can go up here and select that, go to canvas, and now I'm able to like align. If it's over here, I can go and click that and I'll center it. Again here, I want to center it. Or if you want it to go over there or over there or center. So that's a good way of knowing like you're dealing with a bunch of stuff and you're like this. And is that even centered? Boom, center. Guaranteed. Every time. There we go. Now I'm going to move down this thing here and really, boom, we have a really basic overlay, but it's pretty ugly, isn't it? That is something I wouldn't sell anyways, but you get the idea. What we did here just in review is we created a box that is the same dimension as the overlay itself because that has that 3:2 ratio, 4:6, and we placed it in the overlay with a background. How big you make this is up to you. And if you want to put a frame on it or whatever, you know, you can go ahead and just double click on that layer. Put a stroke on it. Why not? Okay, you can do that. Let's make it black. Why not make it uglier? It's going to be the ugliest overlay you've ever seen. So now we have a frame on where the photo goes. Okay, once you do that, and you're happy with everything like that, we're going to save it. So what we're going to do is we're going to go File and Save As. Right here, we're going to, I'll save it on my desktop, why not? Let's call it One Picture Wedding, whatever you want, save. Once you have it saved, then we're going to export it. And what I mean by export is we're going to convert it into a file that you can use like a JPEG or a PNG. And definitely for us, we're using a PNG. So because if you save this as a JPEG, this transparency won't be here. It'll be white. So we're going to save it as a PNG. So we're going to go File, and then we're going to use that Quick Export as PNG. Click on that and save. Now, when we go to our desktop here, or I'm going to go and quick access that file here, and I'm going to bring it back in. So I'm going to turn off all these layers. You can turn off layers, by the way, by, like I said, these things here. So I brought the overlay back in. This is the overlay that we saved as a PNG, and it's done. You can see you have an overlay, one overlay with transparency. Okay. Now if I bring in a picture of a girl, just to show you that there is transparency, I'll put that layer back on top. You can see now I have a picture frame that has transparency. Okay, so we made an ugly overlay and we put a photo in there. I can take the photo in and out. I'll be constantly doing little things like this just to show you, how things kind of work. And people are like, oh, that's how you do it. That's how I learned. I went to school to become a graphic designer, and I learned 99% of the stuff I know now from tutorials on YouTube and making mistakes. So if I can do it, you can do it. Okay, so I want you also to know that this live feed, I'm learning from this. I've never did anything live on YouTube before, and this last few days I've been testing things out and learning how to use OBS and a camera that how it all connects, and so I'm making a lot of mistakes as I go, but I promise these future tutorials will keep going well. Okay, so we made an overlay. I'm going to delete that here, and we're going to just, oh yeah, that's another thing I want to show you here too. So I have a project here, and the project's here. Okay, so if I go and make a new one, I'm going to make it same dimensions. Now I have another artboard up here, and so I got two of them now. And what's cool about that is when I create something in this layer, like a circle, and I want to use that in this one, I can just quickly click, drag it over to that, and plop it down. I brought it from here, and I put it in here. You can also do that with Control-C, Control-V, copy, paste it. So again, I'm going to come in here, Control-C, and I'm going to come in here and Control-V. Now I have another one. Okay. That's pretty cool. Now I'm going to actually show you something here. I'm going to remove background from a logo, but that kind of sounds a little boring, so I'm going to remove background from a photo. Here we go. A lovely young lady here, and it's her birthday, and they want her picture on the overlay. So how do you do that? Let's begin. So, excuse me. Before we do anything like that, we have to make sure that we rasterize the layer. Okay, so when you bring something into Photoshop, it's going to bring it in as an image, and we want to convert it into we want to rasterize the layer. And what happens when you rasterize the layer, it converts it into a layer that has pixels, and that's the only way you can kind of like change things in Photoshop. So you'll see there's that little box there in the panel, and it shows that it's not rasterized. So we're going to right click and rasterize layer, and now we can do things. When I mean do things, I mean like we can do anything. Like I'm going to take a chunk out of it. Let's just show you using this tool and delete. See, I just took a chunk out of that picture. You can do whatever you want. And oops, I didn't mean to do that. Control-Z. There. Control-Z, undo. So I have this lady here, and I want to cut her out. The thing with Photoshop is you can accomplish different the same. You can have like a result, and there are many ways to accomplish that result. Okay, so to remove her from this photo, to remove the background here, you can do it in many different ways. So I'm going to show you a couple of ways. But like I said, Photoshop is loaded with features that make it really easy. But I'm going to show you some hard ways of doing it because I want you to learn just some of the tools here. And on the side tools, we have this one here, the lasso tool. Okay, and this bottom one is awesome because you kind of like click and drag it. You know, click where you put marks. You know, click here, click here, click here, click, 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 click. Now I have a connection, and it does this dotted lines, which means I've selected this in here. With that layer selected, I can hit Control X. Control X is cut. And I just cut her out. And you can see the layer here where she used to be. You can see she's gone now out of that layer, but the layer's still there, which is that background. Make sure I hit my select tool now. Now I can see like that background. I want to take the eyeball off it so it disappears. Control V is paste. And there she is. Cut out. It's not the best cutout because, you know, you still see some background, but you can take that lasso tool again here, and you can actually go in and like do fine tuning like this. Okay, I was going to take a chunk out so you can see. Delete. There it is. Once you have like something selected like that, you have to deselect it, and you do that by Control D. There, I just selected it. Okay, and then you just, you know, you proceed with doing it all the way, you know, removing this and that. Okay, that's a good tool to use when you have a shape that's easy, like a square, you know, something that has edges and stuff. But when it comes to a person like this, you know, she's got hair and there's some curves and stuff like that. And when you have like a tool like that, you can't really curve. You know, you might want to use a pen tool or whatever, but you know, every time you try to accomplish something, there's different ways of doing it, but you can get the same result. So I'm just going to go back and click and drag another image of her in here. We're going to start all over again. I'll delete that old layer. Okay. Now I have her back in the picture. Again, I'm going to rasterize the layer. When you rasterize the layer, then now you can edit it. Okay. Now we're going to use a tool here on the side, and we're going to use the magic wand tool. And that is going to kind of like, Photoshop does its thing and it figures out what you're doing here. And see, what I'm doing here isn't going to work because this tool only works with like a solid background. So I'm going to deselect it with Control D, come back into here, and we'll try the quick selection tool. When you use the quick selection tool, it's really cool. I'll show you. Oops. You can just kind of hold down your mouse button and just draw her out. See? I hold my mouse, not my mouse, my space bar. When you hold your space bar down, it gives you hands where you can move things up. Okay? And now I'm going to Control X. I'm going to delete what's there and then paste her back in. Now that was a little bit easier than doing that other thing, but you can see it's not perfect. Okay. And you're going to have some issues like that when you're using backgrounds that are very complicated. Okay, guys. So like there's different ways of doing things, right? So we're going to go back and put her back in again. So I'm just clicking and dragging it from a different window here. Again, I'm going to rasterize her layer. This time, I'm going to, you got to make sure that the layer is selected because whatever layer is selected is what you're going to be working with. So I got her layer. I'm going to go up to filter, or no, sorry, select, and then I'm going to hit subject. Now Photoshop will take out the subject like that. Again, I'm Control X. I'll delete that layer and I'll paste her back in. That's much, much better. Okay. One thing you have to understand too, that's really important. You know, if you don't want to use what do you call them? Adjustment layers and all that kind of stuff. You just wanted to kind of do things simply. Is before I do that, so I'm going to go back to the beginning again. And you can see here my panel is getting quite busy now. So I'm just going to delete all these layers because we don't need them anymore. Okay, we're back to the original here. Again, rasterize the layer. And before, because I might want to come back to this, right? So what you should do is Control D or Control J, which is duplicate it. You can see there's a duplication here. And then I'll just turn one of them off. So that way, when I make changes to this layer, I can come back to this layer if I have to, okay? So now we're going to go do that again. Select and subject. Okay, now we're going to move her again. Delete and Control V to paste her back in. Okay, now let's take a closer look. Okay. Now you can see, I mean, and you know, it really depends how perfect you want to be too. Some people don't give a crap and they just kind of like, that's good enough. I like to really, you know, get in there, right? So if you see things that just don't look right, Photoshop can fix all of it. You know, it's almost good. So now I'm going to show you another tool here. Like I said, you know, there's other ways of doing this, but I'm going to show you just some simple tools. Okay, so we're going to show you the eraser tool. So right here on the side here, you can see eraser. I'm going to click and hold it down so you can see. I'm click on the eraser tool. Oh, I got to select her layer first. Okay. Now if you look, I have this little eraser. You can increase the size too by just right clicking, and you can make the size bigger or smaller. Also on your keyboard, the control brackets. Sorry, the control the brackets, no control, just brackets by themselves. You can increase it like that too. So you're not constantly coming back in here. You can use your keyboard. Okay. And see, I can just take a chunk out of her like that. And when I did that, you can see it kind of feathered it, right? And that's because of the hardness of my brush, my eraser. Okay. If I make it harder, then I'm able to make a much sharper edge cut. Okay. Control Z, Control Z, Control Z, Control Z. Undo, love it. Again, I'm bringing the eraser tool back in, using my bracket tool to make it smaller. And that's going to soften it a little bit. Now I come back over here. Using my mouse wheel, I can zoom in and out. You can zoom in like so close. You can see pixels. And now I'm just going to kind of like take out some of that stuff I don't want. See that? Okay. Just the little imperfections that Photoshop did not get when it did selection here. Here it's kind of weird with her hair. Just kind of take some of that out. And here. In later sessions, more tutorials that are coming up, I'll be going into some really cool things and some really cool tricks to make this even faster and better. But for now, I just want to teach you guys some of the basic stuff. Like what I would have done is I wouldn't have done that. I would have created a layer mask over here and done it like that, and but we'll do that another day. Like when you start talking layer mask with some people, they're like, okay, I'm done. I don't want to learn Photoshop, so I don't want to scare people away. So I'm just going to show you some cool thing, and like an eraser, and you take an eraser and you go in here and erase. That is simple. Like, let's just kind of clean that up a bit. There we go. Now we have a picture of a girl. Now, before we made an overlay here, we were just doing like a yellow shape or a green shape. But now I'm going to show you guys how to, one second. I just want to show you guys how to actually get stuff, okay? And what I use is I use PNG tree is what I started with when I first started this business. A PNG tree was great. I mean, and it still is, but it's not as good as some other things I've discovered after. But PNG is great and it's free for some things. Okay, so like I think there's a limit of how many things you can download or something like that. But PNG, which is the transparent files, right? PNG images and assets like clip arts and stuff. There's a billion sites. There's so many, but you have to remember that when you use images and stuff like that, that you use them right and don't overdo it, and try to kind of like capture a theme without using them if you can. What I like is we can come up here and, for example, go to backgrounds. And we can see that we got different kinds of textures and stuff, which is great. I love, love, love textures. And let's say she is doing like a rustic theme here. So we're going to go type in wood. Excuse me, I'm sorry. Okay, so, we got some great textures here. Let's go with that one. Download the JPEG. Like that. It'll pop up down here. Now I can just click on that and drag it down to my menu and bring it up here. There's other ways of importing files into your project, but that's really easy, right? You can just click, if I have a folder like that, I can just click and drag into Photoshop like that. I'll say no. But you also can do it the hard way where you can go here and like, import and whatever. So now I have a thing or a background that's wood. Now, you got to remember, guys, when you have an image, it has pixels like that. So if I'm going to take that image and make it bigger like that, you're starting to see some distortion here. You're starting to see like the pixels are really like working, and that will show up. That's not good. You don't want that. You want to keep it like that. And if I'm going to, like if I wanted to go all the way down, for example, man, this way of doing it, I could turn it. So if I do that, I just click on the corner. When you click on the corner, it turns into like you're able to transform it now. You can see like before, and then when I transform, you can see a check mark and all this stuff appear up here. This is when I can kind of like turn things around, put warps and stuff like that on it. If you hold down your shift key, then your turn will be more, straight, 45, 90, and all that kind of stuff. So that's another way of doing it. Is I can like go like that and then size it out a little bit. And so you don't lose that quality now. I'm going to put that layer on the bottom. So there she is. And I have some kind of shape behind her. Or I'm going to Control Z to undo, 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 undo. Another thing is just keep that shape. Okay, just keep that shape, and maybe it can be used as like a banner. I mean, it's up to you, right? Put her back on top. There she is. I'm going back to PNG, and let's go take a look at some other things we can do. Let's say she wants some flowers on there. Okay, so we're gonna go and see if we can find some flowers. So flowers. Okay, now keep in mind when you're when we're looking at the overlays that were not good, uh, when you're using a background like we're using, like we have this wood here, you don't want to use flowers that are like watercolor or like fake looking, right? Because you have something that looks real and then you put something that looks fake on top of it. So, using watercolor flowers and all that stuff, I don't have a problem with that. It's just, it looks best when the background suits it, right? So if you put like fake looking colored flowers on top of a wood texture that looks really rich, then it's not going to look good, right? Like for example, let's just show you a hair. By the way, I got a library full of assets and stuff. I want to do things as if you were doing it, which is why I'm not going into my library and stuff right now. So here we go. We have a file here. I'm going to download it. I downloaded the PNG. Now that I have it here, I'm going to click and drag it into my shop here. Now, just to prove my point, do you see what I mean? It doesn't look right because the background and the flowers don't match. You need a match. Okay. So maybe in this case, I'm going to delete that background. And if I go into and put a square in there, and I change the color of it into like a more of a champagne-y looking color. Now those flowers work in that situation, in this situation, right? So I'm able to like move them around and turn them. As you notice, when I'm making things bigger and smaller, I'm not doing any of this stretching and crap, okay? That's not good. And people sometimes do that because sometimes something's in the way, so they will just kind of go in here and just squish it in, right? You don't want to do that, especially with fonts. Fonts, text, never ever stretch it. There's other alternatives to doing, getting your text to go wider and stuff, but stretching it is not the right way. So again, I'm going to position that there. And let's say we put another one. See, I held down Alt, right, to copy it. Hold Alt, and then I'm going to turn it that way. Now inside up here are these, this is your menus and stuff. So if I have this selected, I can go up here into Edit, and then anything that I do will affect that layer. So in this case, let's say I want to, flip it. See, like that. I can do that. So if I select that layer, anything I do in these menus up here will affect that layer. And that's another thing to keep in mind here too. We're going to go way more into detail about the stuff up here another day. So now I have that and that and that. I'm going to make another square. Again, I'm going to make it the same size as the overlay. If you want to be, really precise, of course, you can use the options up here. If you want to make sure that it's a certain size, you can do the number system. You can enter numbers and stuff. And now I have a place where I want the photo to go. Again, I'm going to go double click on that layer, bringing up this panel. I'm going to go fill to nothing and knock out to deep. Now I have that transparency. My girl back up top. Okay. We got something great here. Something's happening. This is great. It's looking good. Okay. Now, when you're using a photo in an overlay, it's got to be, it's got to be worth it. Like, if you're going to do all that work and then she's going to be like that small, you know, make it look nice. And it's her birthday. Think of it like, well, how would you feel? You know, I want to stand out. I want to look nice, right? So I'm going to put her like that. And you can see that, you know, part of her hair and her arm is like it's in front of a picture, like this picture here, that where the picture is going to be. And a lot of people don't like that, but I don't see a problem in it. I think it adds dimension and whatnot, right? So it's okay to put things in front of a picture as long as it's not like here or something like that where it's going to interfere. But you know, just a little piece of her like that. And see, I don't have to have her. I can have her partly on the screen, right? Never do it where it's like kind of on the screen because it looks like you're making a mistake. It's like go in or go out. Don't go partly in because it makes it look like you made a mistake. But if you go like that, it doesn't look like a mistake. So it looks like it's designed that way. Okay. Now I want to show you like what you would do normally is you go here and you add a adjustment layer where you can like fiddle around with the colors and stuff like that. But I'm going to show you a shortcut. So I got her there and I'm going to hit Control L, which brings up my levels. And here I can like make her darker or lighter. Control L. I'm going to just bring her in like that. There we go. Always start with Control L, the levels first, and then Control U. Control U. And this is where you can kind of like make her brighter. Or, you know, let's say hue, you know. Control L and Control U. Done. That looks really great. Same thing with these flowers. I'm going to go there and Control L. And you can see when I make it darker. And Control U, which I can make it brighter. And then I put that on top. So part of it's there. See, I got some leaves there. I was going to turn it so it's just not interfering with the picture so much. Okay. Same thing here. Control, boom, bring it up to the top. And move it like that. And Control L. Oops, 1 second. Control L. Darker. Control U. Brighter. And what bothers me right now is there's no symmetry on this, right? You want kind of like this side to look like that side. So I'm going to delete that. I'm going to duplicate that again. And just hold down my Alt key to bring it over. And then I'm going to the Edit menu and flip it. So it kind of like looks like the other side. There we go. Right about there. Okay. Okay. Now, rule of design is like this when you're using text. So I want to say happy birthday. And I'll put it here. Okay. And then I'm going to use the text tool again, or using that tool and holding Alt down, I can copy that. And sometimes it's easier to do it that way because you want to keep the same font and like the same everything, you know, it's easy to do that. But also, you know, you don't have to come all the way over here or hit, you know, just kind of Alt and copy it and then whatever. And you still can change, you know, the font and everything. And we'll call her Jessica. She looks like a Jessica. I clicked on that to transform it now. Now I can make it bigger or smaller. Now, because Jessica is off to the side here, then it's okay to have an alignment on this side. So, you know, if you click and drag on the ruler, you can bring over a guide, or you can use one that's existing already. And say like right about there. Okay, and I'm going to zoom in And now I'm just going to make everything fit inside that alignment. Okay. Now, if you really want to be precise, get right in there. Or you can select, holding down your control key, you can select multiple items. So here I selected 2 items. When I select items and hit the corner, I can transform them together. Okay, so are they aligned? I don't know. We can do that by going in here. Right now it's aligned to the canvas. I'm going to just align the selection. And now I can align it. Oh, see, that A came over a little bit. Now it's dead on. So in review, instead of taking the name and centering it, like most people do, rule of design allows you to do it like this, because we have a left and a right, in a sense, that she's here and the text can kind of go there. Okay. Even if you would do something like make happy birthday smaller and then put it here, then it allows you, which makes sense, it looks right to put a date here. Okay. Now, one thing that you have to understand too is I made Jessica text bigger than everything else. And that's really important because Jessica is the important thing in this whole, I have all this text here. Jessica's the most important text. So she should stand out more. If I wanted to do something special with her, playing around with fonts is fun, but never use more than 2. So if I'm going to use a different font for Jessica, that's okay. So let's do that. I'm going to go and let's just pick a fun font here. Okay. Now, as you see here, her name is kind of weird now because it's all caps. That's because this button over here is on, which kind of creates all caps. Now it's off. Now we have a really pretty font. And that's one more rule. Never ever forget this, folks. When you're using script fonts, never capitalize the entire word because it looks brutal. For example, that does not look good. And people do it. People do it. Okay, so now our situation has changed because Jessica has this really fancy J. Okay, so now our alignment is off. How do we fix that now is just kind of take the birthday, and we're going to move it over here now. Okay, and because of that now, I believe in my, that the date should be smaller now. Okay, it just makes more sense. Okay, and I'm always pulling back to see it and then coming back in. Okay. Okay. Maybe birthday needs to be a little bit smaller here, so we'll kind of go back in there and make that smaller. So you can make things smaller by going in here too and changing the font size here using your wheel wheel on your mouse. You can kind of like, I keep moving Jessica because she's, where is it? Happy birthday. There it is. Okay, maybe we'll put it there and we'll center, So I'm going to use my guide here and I put that right center where its birthday is, and then we'll center this one. Okay, that's looking a little better. anyways, we'll touch more on how we do, you know, the fonts and stuff. But how to create an overlay in review, we learned how to make a text or a transparent box. That's really important because a lot of people ask that. They ask, how do you do it? So creating a transparent box is pretty important. So we discovered that. I showed you how to remove a background from a photo. And then in later streaming here, we'll discover other ways. I mean, you know what? I'm here and I kind of want to show you guys because I think it's so cool. So we have a layer here and I'm able to go into filters, and there's this new thing with Photoshop 2022. It's just great. So we're going to go in this and check it out. Now, this is so cool. So, for example, all these different filters, these weren't here with the last version. This is all new, and I'm still playing around with it and having fun with it. Like this smart portrait part here. So I can see this blue box. Photoshop automatically detects us for the faces and stuff. And I'm able to like move these levers and change the expression on her face. Like, watch. It's doing its thing. It's a little slow because the image is so big, right? But it's really cool what you can do with Photoshop now. See, I just changed her facial expression. And then, you know, you can change her age. So I'm going to go like this and make her just a little bit older. See how her face changed? Make her really old. Look at that. Make her really young. Look at that. I mean, I look like a genius when I make adjustments like this. And all I did was adjust these levers here. Slide this over here, make her hair thicker. Look at that. Make it thinner. And even her eyes. I'm going to make her look over there. Look over there. There she is. Express, you know, you can make her angry. You know what? When you have an image where the guy is like blank expression, then it's really fun. Like his mouth could be closed and he could be smiling with teeth, and it's all by doing these little things in here. Photoshop is simple and super fun. And this is something Canva cannot do, trust me. Cancel. Okay, we're back to this again. Okay. So we're almost done for the day here. I want to bring up one more thing here. I want to bring up a logo and show you how to remove the background from the logo, because that is another thing that people have issues with. I'm constantly browsing through the thank you, April. I'm constantly browsing through the groups looking for issues people are having, and I'm going to try to address them in here. And next week is going to be way better. I'm going to have dancing girls, showgirls, and alcohol. No, YouTube won't let me have alcohol, but dancing girls for sure. Okay, so join me next week for sure. Same time, same place. Okay, what was I going to do again? My OCD's kicking in. Okay, I'm going to bring in a logo. You know what? Let's just grab one from the internet. Why not? Let's have some fun. Okay. A logo. It's like Apple logo. Okay, we have a logo. There it is. I'm going to go up in here and paste it in here. And here we go. Okay. See, I got all these rules and stuff. Again, you go to view and you can clear your guides so they're gone. And I'm just going to go in new and make a new artboard because why not? Okay, it's going to be the same thing as Jess. I'm going to go back to that layer, click and drag this into the new sheet I have. Now you notice every time I open up a new project here, it opens up a new window, and there's like, now I got 3 of them going on here. It always opens with a background, like it always does. So it's always good just to do that. And you can't delete it until you have another layer involved. So now that I have another layer in here, I'm able to delete that bottom layer. Okay, anyways, here we go. We have a logo, and you want just the apple. Okay. How you do that is simple. It's like I said, there's multiple ways of doing it, obviously, but really the easiest way is using the quick selection tool. Oh, no, sorry, not the, sorry. Magic wand tool. And then click on it. And what happens here is it just collects everything that's that color. If you have a logo that has a busy background, this might not be the right way of doing it. But in this case, and in most situations, you're just removing white from a background. And delete. Control D to deselect that now. Now I have a logo that has no background. Then you save it and you go to use it, and it still has a white background. That's because you didn't export it right. So remember, always go to File, Export, Quick Export as PNG. Boom. And then name it. Now you have a logo that has no transparency on it. Again, in the layer styles, on that layer, I can do a color overlay, normal. I can change whatever color I want. Apples are red. And okay. Again, double click on the layer. I can put a drop shadow on it. This is a blue drop shadow. Why not black? I'm really over exaggerating it just to show you. And gradients, if you take the color overlay, you can add a gradient on it, or textures or patterns, strokes. All lots of fun that we're going to be discovering as we go along. But today, I hope you were able to understand that an overlay is really easy to make. It really is. Like, for some people, they're able to make an overlay, but it doesn't mean that they should, because they don't understand design, right? So they make an overlay and they think they can make an overlay, and they try to sell stuff, and it's like, you can't sell that. It doesn't look right. Just because you can make an overlay doesn't mean you should. Okay? Now you need to learn some of the design laws and rules to kind of follow by when it comes to colors and textures and fonts. And we're going to touch all that next week. So I really appreciate you being with me. I feel a lot better now. In the beginning, I was like, what am I doing? Right? So like, thank you so much for joining me and making this, an experience I'll never forget. I'll be back next week, same time, same place, with the Showgirls. So please join me again, and I hope to see you again. And God bless you all. Stay safe out there, guys. And goodbye. I should have credits or something rolling right